Hi, I'm Gina, creator and host of Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that is designed to have real talk around all things midlife and strategies to help us live a more vibrant second half. It is my deepest desire to help other people shift the conversation toward empowerment, toward vibrancy, toward excitement about what life has for us and what we can bring to the world, how we can each individually shine our light. So I invite you to grab a cup of something wonderful, to join me each week or when you can, and join me in my living room to have these conversations. And if you are enjoying this, please take the time to subscribe wherever you listen, rate my podcast, and share the episodes that help you, the episodes that encourage you. Let's build this community together. Welcome to my tribe. I'm so grateful you're here. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife and to live a more vibrant second half. Today, we are going to be talking about food, nutrition, hormones, how we can take back our health and our life by treating food as medicine and changing our mindset around things like fat. So today, my guest is Vinnie Tortorich. He's a director, a producer, a best-selling author, a podcaster, a celebrity trainer, and a rock star, helping spread the word to how to change our lives and our health. Vinnie, thank you so much for saying yes to me.
Gina, thanks for having me on. And, when I hear that back, it's like, oh, he's a producer, he's written books, and he's a trainer. I mean, if you just added hairdresser in there, you would have gotten every kooky profession that you could have ever thought of. And it's like, well, wait, this guy seems like he does a lot. Is he good at any of it? And I'm wondering the same thing. It's like, am I good at any of this stuff? And you really gave me a second, of pause there to try to figure out if I'm doing anything well at this point.
It's really funny. It's one of those things where, you're a guy who takes the bull by the horns. And so the way I see it is if an opportunity comes up and you have a chance to use a platform, you take it. So I would say, having listened to you on other podcasts, having watched one of your documentaries, yeah, I would say you're doing okay. It's okay. You hit as many nails on the head as you need to get your message out. And that's why you're here today, because I listened to you on Micro just a few days ago. I listened to it, had my husband sit down, and I listened to it again. Then we watched one of your documentaries. It's called Fat, a documentary. And I thought to myself, you said you'd be on anybody's podcast. And I thought, well, I'm going to call this guy on it and see. And sure enough, you said yes to me. And we've got you here because I believe that the message that you're sharing about food, proteins, fats, all of that is so important for our health. And a lot of us in midlife are feeling a little frumpy, dumpy, sluggish, maybe feeling like this is normal midlife. And you look fantastic. And I don't think it's just because you're a celebrity trainer. I think it's because you live your message. So I just basically want to give you the opportunity to share your message, Vinnie, and give us an education on really what we can do and how food really can be our friend and our ally in our health.
Well, Gina, I'm going to first, let me be really candid and frank. I almost turned you down. You were almost the first podcast where I said no, because when my assistant, she sends me everything and it says, would you be on this podcast? I read it as, because our minds play trick, I read it as the feminist podcast. And I went, oh God, I'm a dude. I don't know. Am I going to get yelled at? Feminist podcast? And then I almost wrote, tell them I need to pass. And then I read it again. It's like, oh, the Feminine Roadmap. Oh, it's not a feminist podcast at all.
No.
It's a roadmap as to how. And then I started thinking, wait a minute. I was more confused by one email. More confusion than all of the confusion that happened all through COVID-19. That's how confused I was about you and your one email. And then I went, you know what? Sounds like fun. I'm doing this. But that wasn't your question. That was just me going off on a tangent.
I've often wondered if the title of my podcast, I'm 5 years in, so it's kind of hard to change it. But I thought, I wonder if people are just like, wait, I'm confused. Because I have gotten that feminist people thinking that's what it's about. I'm like, no, that's not what it's
No,
about.
not at all. Well, I changed mine. We started doing my podcast 10 years ago. We just went north of 2,000 or 2,100 episodes.
Wow.
And when the show first started, it was wildly popular from the beginning. I started mine in order to sell that book that you had mentioned. And we called it the Angriest Trainer Podcast. Now, you've heard me on Mike Rowe. We've talked for 10 minutes before this show started. I'm not an angry guy at all. It was this misinformation that I was putting out about my own podcast. When we started doing it, we figured we had to give it a name. And I just said to my wife, no, we're just going to name it. Everyone wanted me to name it the Celebrity Trainer Podcast. And I thought that was such a douchey kind of title. It's like, I hate that title, but I did work with celebrities for 30 years. And I was like, well, maybe the title fits. And I said, I'm just going to call it the, American Trainer Podcast. Why not? And then I looked on Google, and there's a company that does, I don't know, like pipe fitting or something like that. And it's called American Trainer. And I went, well, yeah, I don't want to be confused with a guy that's training people how to weld. So maybe I could just call it the Trainer Podcast. That doesn't really make sense. And my wife says, why don't you call it the Angriest Trainer Podcast? Because you're angry because of what's happening to people, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought about that. And I went, yeah, we could call it the Angriest Trainer. I didn't think anyone was going to ever listen to it. We're talking the early days of podcasting, almost 11 years ago. And no one was really paying attention. You didn't have Apple CarPlay. No one was playing it in their car. You had to kind of be a hipster to even pay attention. So we called it the Angriest Trainer Podcast. The problem with that was when my book became popular and I started getting invited onto national television shows to talk about the book and a podcast and the whole thing. Of course, every producer went and read, oh, he's the Angriest Trainer. So the first 5 minutes of every appearance on every national show was, you don't seem so angry. Why are you so angry? Vinnie, tell us why you're angry today. And I went, oh, I got to walk away from this because I'm wasting half of my time explaining that I'm not angry. I'm actually angry for you. And we say that in every show. Your good intentions have been stolen. I'm just trying to help you get them back. Now, to that end, you said before the podcast started, hey, I'm just going to open up the mics and I want you to talk about your system. I don't have a system. There is no weight loss. Hey, you got to go buy this or buy that. That's how your good intentions have been stolen. Mm-hmm. I decided early on, well, I can't tell a lie. I decided this after it was in progress, but the only reason we started any of it was because I wanted to sell a book. And once, podcast was out for about a year before we put the book out. At the time, we were probably getting 60,000 downloads a month, which we thought was fabulous. And now the show gets, I think, north of 1 million a month, but we've been at it for a long time. So we put the book out. And I figured, okay, after I sell the book for a while, I'm going to stop this whole crazy podcasting thing. I mean, why do it? It doesn't pay. I don't make a dime from it. Nothing. It's a big zero in my life. I'm using it to pay for, or I'm using it to sell a book. Well, what I didn't realize what happened, well, a couple of things happened. The book became this crazy bestseller. Which was beyond anything. I was just hoping to, sell a few books, make a few $1,000s, go home. The book became this crazy bestseller. The book, by the way, is called Fitness Confidential, which is the name of the podcast now, the Fitness Confidential podcast. when you're talking about changing the name in the middle. That's what got me started on this diatribe. At some point, everyone was buying my book. It was up for Audible Book of the Year, and all this kind of weird stuff that you can't see happening in your life. You don't turn 50 years old and become successful. It doesn't happen. As a matter of fact, I went on to Google the day my book came out and read, has anyone become successful after their 50th birthday? And turns out that, KFC, Colonel Sanders. Mm-hmm. And I went through like a list of people who became famous or wealthy or successful after their 50th birthday. And wow, life is not over when you hit 50. My life went into another gear and I didn't even see it coming. Mm. One day I'm walking down the street and the next day I'm being stopped in airports. In what world does that happen? Right? So that's what happened to me. But then I realized, oh, wait, I can't stop the podcast because people are paying attention to it and they're losing weight for free. They're losing weight for free. There was no system. There was no nothing. And, my accountants and everyone, first time in my life, I had accountants and people, and they were like, well, you need to charge for that podcast because it's not a good use of your time. And I'm like, well, I can't charge for it now. I've been giving it away for free for so long. I would feel weird. And then something else happened. People started writing to me on Twitter. I got a Twitter account. And I think I'm one of the few people that literally will answer almost every Twitter question. And people started saying, man, I really love your book. It's really motivating. I wish there was more of a prescription in the book. I wish you would have told us more about what to eat. You just told us not to eat sugars and grains, but you didn't tell us exactly what to eat. And I thought that it was, well, just don't eat sugars and grains. Everything else is on the table. And people were like, au contraire. What about potatoes? Well, no, obviously potatoes. And I went, wait, it's obvious to me, but maybe it's not obvious to everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about that potato because people say, well, what about leeks? Obvious to me, but maybe not obvious to everyone else. Can I have hummus? Obvious to me, maybe not. So I started thinking about all this. And then I realized that the book was making more and more money, and I felt more and more guilty. So I sat down one afternoon and I wrote a 25-page PDF. I think that you have the PDF, right?
I do have it. I've shared it already. Yes.
Yeah. Mike wrote, name dropping Mike. I was on the show last week.
That's how I found you. Go ahead and drop the name. That's a good podcast to listen to.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like I made two new friends, Chuck Klausmeyer and Mike Rowe. And they said, what's the thing you're most proud of? You've done all these movies. You've done, the book, the podcast is a big hit. And I said, believe it or not, it's a free PDF. Mm. And I said, there's no clickbait. There's no click funnels. There's nothing. You go there, you get it, you download it. It's free. And they were like, really? Wow. Why is that? And I said, because I read on a daily basis online where people will say, I've never paid this guy a dime. All I did was downloaded a free PDF and I listened to his podcast and I've lost fill in the blank, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds. I've had people lose 350 and 400 pounds and they've never paid me a dime.
Wow.
How can you not be the proudest of that thing over anything else you've ever done? It's impossible. Doesn't, because the one thing I learned about making money is when you have money, it doesn't make you happy and it doesn't do anything. As a matter of fact, I can go into how it causes more stress. It doesn't do anything except cause stress. But when you could do something to help people and you could just give it to them, that becomes a thing. Now, we have considered over the years, and I told Mike Rowe, I'm not going to do it for at least a month. We've considered putting a price tag on the free PDF. The reason being is, and it won't be a lot. It'll be something everyone can afford. The thing is probably worth, if anyone else did a 25-page PDF like that can get you to lose that kind of weight, what's it worth? $100, $200, $300? I'm thinking about putting a $10 charge on it. Not $9.99, because I don't do that to people. $10. The reason being is there's research out there that shows if someone pays any amount of money for something, they will use it and appreciate it more.
The value is whether or not they spend money on it. Isn't that funny? It's the same information, but it's a mind trick.
So we've given it away over 300,000 times now. Wow. Yeah. And I'm thinking about charge. As a matter of fact, I said, maybe I'll charge $10.01, because I hate when people are $9.99. I hate that. Why are you goofing with me? It's $10. So I might make it $10 or $10.01, and just put it out there and let people get it. And I'll do that experiment for maybe a year and see if people appreciate it more by doing that. But I won't do that for at least another month. And knowing me, because I'm going to charge for it, I'm going to probably go in and goose it up a bit and probably add another 8 or 10 pages to it because there's other thoughts I've had since I've written it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when people go, what's your system and what's your deal and how do you, and it's like, it's all free, baby. It is all free. I have nothing there to sell. Now, people go, how do you make a living? Well, the book still makes money. It's 10 years down the road. The book still does well. That's one thing. I used some of the book money to create a vitamin company, the purest vitamins in the world. I looked around and went, why do people put crap in the vitamin products? I wonder if I can make one with zero crap. And I came up with my own brand. It's not some kind of co-packed or co-brand or white labeled. I started designing vitamins. I have a degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, and I started working with scientists. And purevitaminclub.com puts out the best vitamins in the world at an incredible price. And here's why I did that. When I was a kid, we weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. My parents were school teachers, and they decided to put us in private school. I had 3 brothers. So there was never any extra money. For kids in private schools, we wore an awful lot of hand-me-downs and that kind of thing. When I say hand-me-downs, whoever was the biggest got it new, and then they got handed down to the other brothers. And a lot of patches on knees and what have you. And I used to look around and go, quality matters to me, right? I saw people that drove, and this was back in the 70s when Mercedes were built really well. Like you would see a guy, he would buy a Mercedes and had a diesel engine in it. Mm-hmm. And that car ended up looking like the family because 12 years later, they still have the car. Yeah. Because those cars never broke. Well, Toyota started doing the same thing, except they didn't charge Mercedes prices. So the average person can buy a Honda or a Toyota that you could put a gazillion miles on, but it was way, way, way less expensive. I did the same thing in the vitamin world. I said, okay, I'm going to build the Rolls Royce of vitamins and sell it at a Toyota price so the everyman can afford it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I started making my living, was selling vitamins. And then I started doing the same thing with coffee. It's like, why can't the average person afford to get high-end coffee? And high-end coffee is not cheap. I mean, it's expensive to do micro lots of coffee. Did the same thing with the coffee business and turned that into a business, purecoffeeclub.com.
And that's like the mold-free. You're talking about when they say, oh, this is a small batch, no mold, that sort of thing.
When people say mycotoxins, we have mycotoxins-free coffee, they're lying to you. It's impossible not to have mycotoxins in coffee by definition. You might get some small lot by accident that might not have any mycotoxins in it, but good luck. It's just not, you can never guarantee that because of the way coffee is collected around the world. I've been to these coffee farms. I see how they do it in Costa Rica. There's no way not to have that happen. by definition. And there are companies out there, we're mycotoxin free. No, you're not. You just lied to your public. I'm always about telling the truth. My coffee has mycotoxins like everyone else's, but you're giving them a better product. There is better quality coffee in the flavor and the taste. And, I created that. And then we started a foods company. The reason I'm telling you that is because I've never told anyone, not even once, in order to be healthy and in order to lose weight, you need to take my vitamins or drink my coffee, or you must go over to NSNG Foods and buy my ultra fat. I've never said that once because that would be 3 lies, right? And I'm not about lying to people. I'm doing that so that I can earn a living, so that I can continue to help people online for free. It became some kind of weird mission for me. Going back to Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe makes money by doing television shows, personal appearances. I doubt he makes a lot of money on his podcast because it's hard to make money on podcasts.
Right.
I'm guessing he does quite well on it. But then Mike Rowe gives back.
Yes.
He does Micro Works, and he gives away millions of dollars every year, right? And that's why, when I went on his podcast, I like this guy because we're of the same age. I'm turning 60. I think he just turned 60. We're just old dudes who, instead of going, oh, those kids, we're trying to help those kids, right? Mike is trying to teach them how to weld and do those kind of jobs. I'm trying to get them away from morbid obesity, because what people don't realize, Gina, is that if we don't get this under control sometime soon, we're going to break under the weight of our own weight in this country. We won't be able to, insurance-wise, we're falling behind. The military, they can't get people in good enough shape to even join the military. China or one of those countries will be able to walk in here and take us without firing a single shot, unless we do something now. Right.
We are seeing a huge increase, aren't we, in obesity in children?
Oh, look, when I moved to California,
adults in there.
Well, adults, children, childhood obesity is up by just incredible margins. I can't put a percentage on it because I would be lying. But when I moved to LA in 1991, I went to Disney and Nickelodeon and all these companies and said, there's something coming down the pike. It's childhood obesity. You guys might not see it yet, but it's coming. I've been working with kids in New Orleans and I see what's happening. They do not look like the kids that I looked like only one generation ago.
Yeah.
And they were like, great, we're all into it. You seem like a good looking guy. We'll throw you on television. I was good looking back in the 90s. Gina. At any rate, Gina's looking at me going, "You're not that good looking."
No, you were a model. I know. I watched your stuff. So, but my question is,
but
it's about the weight that you're talking about. I do want to ask you, what is causing? I think we know, but really, as a culture, I feel like we're numb to the habits that we have that are causing this. Because I see entire families. I go to Disneyland. We have passes. And I see entire families just morbidly obese, from the babies to the grandparents, entire morbidly obese families. What is happening?
I walked in, I drive a lot. A lot of times I have to fly because I just have to go do a speech in this town. But if I have time, I drive. And I'll drive nationwide. And another good reason to own a Toyota. And I stop and grab coffee. Usually, they'll put coffee shops like in a Target, or something like that. I was somewhere out in the desert, somewhere around Arizona, and I know there's a Starbucks. I know this country like the back of my hands. It's like I know that exit. There's a Target. There's a Starbucks, right? And Starbucks, by the way, is the nastiest coffee on the planet, but it's coffee, right? You know exactly what you're going to get.
It's consistent.
So, yeah, it's consistently average. So you know what you're going to get. And so I walk in and I'm standing there and a guy comes up to me with one of those electric carts.
Yes.
And he's right next to me. And he's probably, he looks like he's in his 70s. And he's got one of those hats on that you only see Vietnam veterans wear. Where,
yes.
It says veteran on the front and there's a whole bunch of medals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tape 2. And I looked at him, and as I always say, I went, thank you for your service. And he gave me one of these Simplify deals. And I said, so how did it happen? Bouncing Betty? I mean, what happened there? And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're in a wheelchair, and was it Vietnam? And he goes, no, I walked out of Vietnam. I was fine. I said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And he goes, no, I'm too heavy to walk. I have all these different neuro diseases and everything. And I looked at that and I went, wow, he made it out of Vietnam, and sugar took him down. Sugar has him in a wheelchair. And, this is everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
This is everywhere I go. You see younger and younger people in these little strollers. We're becoming people that are just going around on strollers. And you mentioned Disney World's the worst. And I talked about this in my book. This is not meant as a joke. At Disney World, which one is in California? Disneyland.
Disneyland, yeah.
At Disneyland, I talked about this in Fitness Confidential. They had to go and rework the Small World ride. If you remember, it's little boats that they pulled through the Small World. Well, that ride was created in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out that when you put a lot of heavy people in those boats, they sink far enough to where the ride stops because the water's not deep enough. They had to go and redo the whole Small World ride because people are so fat now that it was stopping the ride.
Wow.
That's pretty sad, right? If that's not an indictment on your society, I don't know what is. Right?
What is it you teach, though, that is going to help? Because I think people know, but I like the way that you communicate what you communicate. Back to the whole, what about hummus? What about potatoes? What we think is healthy, is it healthy? I think we have so much confusing messaging out there, plus all the lies, that we're being told.
Yeah. The biggest problem we have is carbohydrates. We just didn't eat them in the quantities that we eat them now. And everything has been made so convenient. And they make carbohydrates so cheap. Example, back when I was in college, Taco Bell had a 2 for $99 special. When you're in college, you go to Taco Bell because, hey, it's 2 for $99. You get two tacos, 99 cents. And when I wrote the book 10 years ago, they had Taco Bell 2 for $69. Well, how the hell, cars, when I was in college, brand new car was about $4,000. Now you can't get a brand new car for less than maybe $20,000. I don't know what brand new cars cost, but the cheap ones are at least 18, $20,000, right? So
minimum. Mm-hmm.
Minimum. And everything has gone up in price, except Taco Bell is not at the same price, it's actually lower. Well, you start looking at that and you go, well, what's happening? Well, when the government subsidizes grains to the point where grains are free, Taco Bell can do a loss leader and actually still make money on that loss leader at 69 cents, right? Think about that. Mm-hmm. So they're feeding you complete crap to get you in the door. And when you get in that door, they're going to feed you more crap, right? So we do this thing. And look, I get it. I've had poor families tell me, well, Vinnie, look, I want my family's bellies to be full when they go to sleep at night. I'm a guy that only makes X amount of money. And, we can't just all munch on one steak versus I can feed the whole family at Taco Bell. It's like, don't go to Taco Bell. You can do better. You can buy ground beef. No one's telling you to eat steak. You need to put real protein. You need to have real eggs, right? If you can't buy eggs, you can buy chickens and they'll just keep reproducing food for you every day, right? People find ways to say, I don't want to hear, if you're drinking one beer, I don't want to hear how your family's going to starve because that beer was not needed. If you're drinking one soda pop, I don't want to hear how your family's going to starve. You can drink water. I never drink beer. I never drink soda pop. I never drink any of that stuff. It's not needed, right? Mm-hmm. There was most of human history where we didn't, when I was a kid, I feel like an old guy now. When I was a kid,
I know.
You guys snow both ways.
Uphill.
Uphill both ways. When I was a kid, I drank 70 ounces of Coke per year. Per year. And you'll go, well, how do you know that? The reason being is my dad would take me to Frank Danino's barbershop and we would get a haircut. And that was the only time I had a soft drink was after the haircut. And Coke used to come in 7-ounce bottles. I don't know if you realize that. Those, remember the big, thick Coke bottles? And they have the larger one, which was 10 ounce, and they have the smaller one, 7. And I would get the 7-ounce bottle, and I figured I got about 10 haircuts a year. And by the way, I don't ever remember finishing a Coke. A 7-ounce Coke, as soon as it wasn't freezing cold to a kid, I lost interest. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and you lived in a pretty warm, humid area, so I could imagine the Coke went warm pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, that bottle got sweaty right away, and you grew up in Southern Louisiana, it just got bad really fast. So let's say I had 70 ounces of Coke per year, because we just didn't have soft drinks in the house. We had milk and water, and now the average person goes in to 7-Eleven, and you get close to 70 ounces. They have the 64-ounce big gulp.
Yeah.
Right. They even make it to where you can, if you notice the bottom of the big gulp is smaller, so that you can fit it into the tray on your car. And if you notice in your car, they've made the drink holders bigger, right? We're not trying to get rid of the problem. We're just expanding everything to allow the problem to happen. And by the way, I think sometimes in those big gulps, you get free refills. You go to the movie, if you get the big tub of popcorn, you get the refill. Right? Mm-hmm. We're not doing anything to try to stop this problem. We're creating more of a problem. Back in the day when everyone went to work in a suit, right? I got to really pay attention to what I eat because my suit won't fit, and suits were expensive, right? You couldn't go get new shirts because your shirt got tight because your neck got fat or your gut got fat. That suit was expensive. Yet you had 3 or 4 of them if you went to work every day, and you mix them up at the dry cleaners, but you wore a suit, right? You had to have responsibility not to eat junk, right? Stay in shape. Now everything is expandable. Yeah. You see the richest people in the world walk around with, elastic shorts, expandable track suits. Mm-hmm. Women don't even try anymore. Women don't wear jeans. Even the jeans you guys have expand. Right. They have stretchy stuff in it. Right. It's amazing how we've let this happen. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. If a woman back in 1995, if a woman walked around in leotards, it was embarrassing. Right. It's like now they just put on the black tights. That's just every woman in the world puts on the black tights in the morning. That's the uniform.
Athleisure. Right? Vinny, it's called right? athleisure.
Athleisure. And the whole idea was, hey, I'm going to drop my kid off at school and then I'm going to go work out. No, you're not. You're going to drop him off at school and you're going to go to Starbucks and you're going to be shopping at Robinson's May, if they're still in existence.
No, they're not.
Or somewhere, wherever women go shop. But you see, and then you go, I forgot to work out today. It's okay. I can put these things on again tomorrow and pretend again tomorrow. Right. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, whenever you eat something, you can't feel it. You can't feel those clothes getting tighter because they just kind of expand with you, right? And by the time the Lycra wears out in those, you just buy the next size up and that expands with you, right? Mm-hmm. So we're creating a world where people don't feel it. Back in the day, and I've been working with morbidly obese people for years, and I've been working with women for years, and they would say to me, they would go, I was feeling really skinny the other day. So I was wearing my skinny jeans, the ones you wear when you feel good.
Yes.
You were able to somehow pay attention to Weight Watchers for 2 weeks. And, because Weight Watchers is a white knuckling event of, hey, I'm going to undereat and lose this weight. And then you're white knuckling in it. So I was feeling good. I had my white, tight, skinny jeans on the other night and I put my pumps on. And me and the girls, we went out. It was ladies' night. It was Friday night. All you can drink margaritas. And halfway through that first margarita, I felt myself just blow up. Right? So I'm going to explain to you how that happens. Have you ever had that happen? You have your tight pants on. You eat one thing and you feel like it went right to your waist. Your pants got tight.
My daughters and I were just talking about how we had eaten something and we all really felt like we just kind of went poof. It was a carb, let's be honest. But I don't drink, but A lot of people do. So I, by all
It doesn't
means,
have to be alcohol. I use drinking because, they're sitting there, they have a couple of chips, they have a margarita.
chips.
It's not it's not the alcohol, it's the
Oh,
sugar in
mm,
the margarita. So what happens is you're feeling good. You've been good for a couple of weeks. Good. You're being good. You're under eating. We're the only animal in the animal kingdom that thinks it's okay when we undereat. We're being good,
mm.
right? Can you imagine a lion going back to the lion den saying, "Hey, cubbies, there was a gazelle out there on the plains today, but I didn't kill it. I let it go. I was being good.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
that's
being,
not going to
we're
happen.
going to all starve." We're the only animal where we go, "Oh, I didn't eat enough today. I was being good." Anyway, you go eat with your friends, your girlfriends, what have you, and you're having a margarita, a couple of chips, and a couple of chips in, half a margarita in, your pumps are getting tighter on your feet,
Mhm.
and you feel the muffin top just going over the top of your jeans, and you're going, "What just happened?" Hormones just happened. Hormones. So I'm going to put this in cartoon form. Okay.
Okay.
When you eat a sugar and it goes to your stomach, your brain, your pituitary, everything goes, "Okay, Gina just had a carb. We need to do something here." All hands on deck. And the first thing we do is we release insulin to go down and cover the carb, right? What it does is it starts to push that sugar that you just got in your liver. It pushes it into your bloodstream, pushes a little bit into your liver, and it pushes some into your muscles. And it does that because we need to be topped off. But that happens within a couple of drops of sugar. It doesn't take a whole lot, a teaspoon at most. And so you're topped off. Now your pituitary is going, "Wait, she keeps drinking this drink and she keeps eating these chips. We need to do something." So it starts turning those carbohydrates into a long chain triglyceride, which is a fat, and it starts storing it in your fat cells. Now, you will go, "Well, Vinny, that's crazy. Why am I feeling fat all of a sudden?" Well, you're not feeling fat because even though you are getting fat in real time, you're not going to see it in your feet and in the muffin top and in your ass. Did I say ass in your podcast?
I
Sorry.
did. It's okay.
Right away. But your body's also releasing cortisol.
Mm.
And because it's trying, instant inflammation is happening, and the cortisol is trying to do something with that. So it starts pushing down on the stuff too, and you start getting inflamed instantly, right?
Mhm.
And it's happening all over your body, but you're seeing it right under your skin. Your shoes get tighter,
Yeah.
your belt gets tighter. It happens like that, just in a brief second. And if that's the only thing that happened, that would be good, but it gets worse. Now you have other hormones coming to play. You have ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is the hormone that's supposed to make you feel hungry, right? It's the hunger. You feel hunger pain. That's ghrelin saying, "Hey, feed me,"
Okay.
right? But when you're constantly eating these chips, because once you start eating them, you need to eat more and more and more, right? You
Yeah.
can't stop.
They're addictive. Yeah.
They become instantly, your brain lights up. It loves it. You can't stop eating them. You were better off if you hadn't had one, right? Now, when you're doing that all the time, ghrelin, it's kind of like people, let's say you're a teetotaler, but you have one alcoholic beverage once a month or something, right? So if you have one scotch, right,
Mm-hmm.
you might feel really drunk. But if you drank scotch every day, you would have to have 3 or 4, right? Same thing happens with ghrelin. When it's constantly being released, your body becomes used to it, right? You become resistant to it, right?
Okay.
You become resistant to insulin. You ever hear the term insulin resistant,
Yes.
right? Well, ghrelin is now, you're now resistant to it. You always feel hungry, right? You feel like, "Oh my God, I have some kind of, you don't understand, I have a real problem." No, you and everyone else, right? And then there's something else called leptin. Leptin is the hormone that's supposed to make you feel full. But again, you become resistant to it and you never feel, you don't understand, Vinny. I can't stop eating. I cannot stop eating. I'm like a bottomless pit. You can have a full stomach of food and your brain is getting the signal that you're starving, emaciated, and you need to eat right now.
Hmm.
That's crazy, right?
Is really crazy.
So you see, we gain and lose weight based on hormones. If we can control those hormones, we can then lose weight. Does that make sense?
It actually does. And I've experienced what you're talking about, especially as bodies change. How hungry or not hungry I am seems to change as well. And it seems like we were just discussing how, when you're hungry and you're not home, everything that's easy is crap. Everything. Like, it's so hard to get something quick and healthy. A lot of people turn to fruit and things like that. But I understand that some people say you can't eat fruit. Some people say you can. I think your NSNG talks about not having carrots and parsnips for the first month because they're high in sugar. And it's like, you almost have to go to school, it feels like, to understand what a good choice actually is. Because we're told sweet potatoes are good, but not these kind of potatoes. Like, there's all these rules.
Yeah, right. And it shouldn't be rules. And the bottom line is, if you're not metabolically broken, right? So I'm not metabolically broken. If I had some berries or an apple or something on occasion, I would be just like 1969 guy, right? I wouldn't get fat. And nothing would happen because my body would just handle that along with everything else. But if someone is metabolically broken, you have to fix that first, right? If your A1Cs are 11 or 9 or 8, these people are on metformin for type 2 diabetes. If you have fatty liver disease, if you have, all of this stuff happening, you have to go off of all of it for a while so that your body can correct itself, right? So what do you end up eating? Well, you eat a lot of fat and you eat a lot of protein. And by the way, you won't get fat from fat. I eat a ton of fat every day. Today I'll probably eat, I know what I'm going to probably have 1.5 pounds of red meat today alone. And I know that because my wife is out of town. I'm cooking for myself right now. So I know what I bought at the grocery store and I know what I'm going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact. You can eat all the red meat you want. You'll be healthy. You can eat all the fish you want. You'll be healthy. You can eat all the chicken you want. You will be healthy. You can have cruciferous vegetables. You'll be healthy. You can have fruits such as avocados and olives, both fruit, and be healthy. But for a while, you might have to stay away from the sweet stuff. Mm-hmm. Or you're never going to get healthy. Those are the options. It's not, well, Vinnie, what about, and, I don't care what about. Right? People come to me all the time and they'll go, hey, my doctor told me if I don't get my stuff straight, I'm going to end up having to have my foot chopped off. And if I don't get my stuff straight, I'm going to die of a heart attack. If I don't, I got 3 stents. And they'll say, I will listen to anything you tell me to do, anything. And I'll say, okay, you got to cut out grains. And I'll go, what's a grain? Well, bread, pasta, oatmeal. Well, I can't have bread. How am I supposed to live without bread? Well, wait, a minute ago, you told me you were going to die. You were worried about dying and having your foot chopped off a minute ago, and now you're arguing for bread? This is what I deal with, right? Mm-hmm. But you got to do tough love. You have to talk to these people and go, look, here's the reality. Here's the reality. What do you want to do?
I notice with certain foods, like you said, chips or bread, it kind of becomes an addictive food. You crave it once you've had it.
It doesn't kind of become addictive. It becomes addictive. There's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
It's addictive. And only we can stop it. It's kind of like an alcoholic or a drug abuser. You can do all of the, if you have, we've all had those people in our lives, at least I know I have. And I had a loved one very close to me. And I kept going to my other friend who had like 30 years sobriety, in AA, 12-step program. And I kept saying, hey, listen, I have this loved one and he's got a problem. And I'm thinking about going over and getting some of our best friends and doing an intervention. I've seen that on television. I've read about it, intervention. And my friend kept saying, no. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's like, well, why won't it work? She's like, it doesn't work. Interventions do not work. She goes, the number of times interventions have worked. And I said, look, we're doing an intervention. and we can have a car and we can drive them straight to the clinic and I'll pay for it. And it's like, you can pay $1 million. You cannot get another person to do what they don't want to do.
Right.
That person has to come to it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I can't just stand by idly. And she kept saying to me, you and all of your family members, you need to all go to Al-Anon.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept going, I don't have a problem. It's like, no, you have a problem. That person is a problem in your life. You need to go figure out how to deal with that problem because that problem might die.
Yeah.
Right. You need to go to. So I started going to Al-Anon, and I got a couple of family members to go to Al-Anon. And as it turns out, we got tools in Al-Anon to learn how to deal with someone with an addiction. And once that person didn't have anyone dancing with him on a dance floor anymore, one day he, in a drunken stupor, drove himself to a hospital, parked his car at the emergency entrance, walked in and said, I need to get cleaned up. Mm-hmm. And they said, what's your problem? He's like, I've been drunk for 20 years. And they put him in the hospital, dried him up for 2 days, right? And they said, okay, now you don't have a physical problem anymore. We have to kick you out of the hospital.
Yeah.
You have to go. And he goes, well, what do I do now? And I'm not religious at all, to be honest with you. This is where divine intervention comes in. The nurse who was checking him out was an AA. And when she's checking him out, she wrote an address down and she wrote a time down. And she goes, you can get there. It's in 20 minutes. And he goes, where am I going? And she goes, just walk in. It's an AA meeting. It's in the basement of a church or something, wherever she sent him. And he went straight to that AA meeting. And he's been clean for 15 years.
Wow.
Right. So the reason I tell that story means a lot to me because people who have an addiction to sugar and grains,
yeah,
you could do everything you want to do to help that person, and you will never get that person to clean up. Ever. It's not going to happen. Right. They have to come to it on their own. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. They have to get cleaned up for long enough to look around and go, wait, where's that AA class again? How do I do this? And that's where my PDF steps in.
Yeah.
There's a group online. I think it's called Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugars, No Grains group. I think it's like 30,000 people in it. And it's a self-supportive group. It's free. It's on the Facebook.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter every day. I will, unless you're yelling at me and telling me I'm killing the world or something, I don't know, I will answer your questions. You know, I do paid consults because I have to charge,
yeah,
it's taking time out of my day. Let's see, today I've done 4 and I'm doing one more right after this podcast. I do 4 or 5 consults a day. And people go, well, my accountant even goes, why do you do that? It's not worth your time. It's like, yeah, but I get to talk to people. I get to coach and they really appreciate it. So right. What's that worth?
Well, and they're coming to you because they're willing to actually take the action. I interviewed someone, pre-COVID, and her whole thing was she left her job, sold her house, moved into an apartment, went back to school to study sugar addiction in addicts because she was volunteering in an addiction center. And her work has done incredible things. It's just like what you're saying. They were saying the percentage of success is under 25% in these rehab centers. But when she began to study what sugar had to do with addiction, like alcohol addiction, you said it, a lot of these alcohols, you said beer on Mike Rose, you said beer is basically liquid bread. So right. If somebody's drinking alcohol on that level, they have more than just the alcohol problem, right? They're having a right. sugar and carb addiction. So if you can adjust the nutrition, you adjust the body, but that's that metabolic thing you're talking about, fixing the metabolic state of the body.
Yeah. It's kind of a one step at a time approach, and there is no quick answer. Mm. And as I tell anyone, if anyone's trying to sell you anything saying, hey, drink these 2 shakes a day and have a sensible dinner, or all you have to do is take this pill or this potion, none of it will work. You're talking to a guy that's been helping people for 40 years, and it's still what I do. If you want it to work, you have to actually take hold and do it yourself. No one else can do it for you.
Mm. And it is a sacrifice when our bodies are addicted to something, isn't it? It's a lot like Alcoholics Anonymous. Your NSNG is the food, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. In a weird sort of way, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It really is.
it's hard. It's tough love on our bodies, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. For the lack of any other way of explaining it, it is tough love on our bodies.
When we see people suffering with something like alcohol or drugs, we would do anything for them, but yet we suffer day to day and we see the suffering because there's no way a 4-year-old who's the size of a 10-year-old is not suffering.
Right. You made me think of something. I'm going to name drop again.
Go ahead.
Dr. Drew Pensky.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Dr. Drew?
I know the name. Yes.
We've been friends for a long time. And now I can't remember if we talked about this on his show or in a private conversation, because when Drew and I do each other's shows, I can't remember when we do it on a show and when we're just having a conversation.
Right. They kind of marry into each other.
Yeah. So we were talking, he's an addiction specialist, and he's had these shows on television, celebrity fitness, centers, and where he heals up all these people and to show you how rough it is, and, saying, Drew, sugar, lights up your brain the same as cocaine.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And Drew hates hearing that because he goes, well, it's not exactly the same. Yeah, sugar does light your brain up and it does hit your pleasure center and it does cause this, that, and the other. And it's a real problem. But cocaine is even more insidious, right? And heroin is even more insidious than that. And he's doing all this stuff. And he goes on for a couple of minutes. And I said, yeah, but Drew, here's the difference. We give sugar to kids at a birthday party and we think it's okay. That's the difference. One is considered, oh, here's a candy. Oh, here's some cake. Oh, here's some cookies. You're feeling down and blue. Here's some gummy worms. Can you imagine gummy worms? Here's some worms. Yes. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like, in one case, it's perfectly fine. Lights up your brain. No big deal. We give it to kids. In another case, we know that, heroin and rocks or whatever they call that stuff and cocaine, we know it's bad for you.
Yes.
Right. But we tell everyone the other one is, pretty much innocuous and it's fine and you can do whatever you want. Makes no sense.
So if they're doing the same thing to your body, the logic is then if one is bad, then the other is bad for you. In other words, if the impact is the same other than, like you said, sugar can make your teeth fall out though, just like meth can technically.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was a film called, I think it was just called Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It might have just been called Sugar. And the guy shows sugar addicts where their teeth are all rotted out and the whole thing is like, and they're just drinking Cokes all day long and doing all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
And, it's a great film. Also, for free online, Dr. Robert Lustig, probably the foremost authority on the planet in childhood obesity, he put a thing out probably 10 years ago called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. It's 89 minutes long. It's been seen millions and millions of times. For any doctor to hold your attention for 89 minutes in a world where TikTok is 15 seconds?
Yes.
You will be fascinated throughout this whole thing. It's crazy what we're doing. It really is. It's scary.
You are someone who has taken a big hit for speaking the truth about taking on the food pyramid, taking on this sugar industry. And yet what you're sharing, and the reason I wanted you on here is I wanted people to know that you were out there because what you share or teach or preach, you choose whatever word makes sense to you, is how our bodies are designed to be fueled and function. And I'm not saying that by any means I'm practicing it yet. We practice it in bits. We're working on, because it is hard to let go of things that we love.
Sure.
I don't happen to drink. I don't happen to have, Coke. I don't like soda.
Right.
don't have that problem, but I love ice cream, so it's like, these are the choices we have to make. And I appreciate the fact that you're out there telling us the truth, and it's costing you in a lot of ways. You self-published your books, you've put out these documentaries, you've had to do this in opposition. Like you said, you've been canceled from Wikipedia. You're not out there, but you're a person who's making a difference in the world. And I wanted to share the truth of how food heals.
Yeah, I do get canceled a lot in that kind of way, not canceled in any other way. But the truth be known, I got offered a lot of money for my book from two of the biggest publishers, Simon Schuster, HarperCollins, these companies. I chose to self-publish because they wanted me to put stuff on the cover of the book that I wasn't comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to paraphrase it now. It was stuff like, lose 10 pounds in the first week of doing this crazy, and I went, no, that's a complete lie.
It's like,
I'm not going to lie to people. And, they kept going, well, once we have this book, it's our book. We're going to pay you a lot of money up front, but then it's our book. And by the way, they wanted me to take the book and cut it in half and give them 2 books. Now, most authors would go, oh my God, a 2-book deal from Simon and Schuster? Absolutely. The problem is that I'm not really an author, right? So they had a problem dealing with me because, you have authors who are like, please, someone, please love me, read my stuff. And then you have people like me who go, I don't care if anyone reads it. I want it to go like this. I want this to be the book. And they were like, well, there's 2 books there. And it's like, no, it's 1 book. It tells one story. They wanted me, because I put a cancer story right in the middle of a fitness book. We could put the first book out, you'll become famous, and then we could tell everyone, read the second book, this is how he almost died. And well, why can't they just read it in the same book? Why 2 books? And look, if I was a smart businessman, I would do that. But I'm not, here's the book. You love it. You want to offer me a lot of money, but now you want to take it and put junk on the cover and make it 2 books. It makes no sense to me. So you see, when you're a guy that has his own convictions in life and you don't go with the status quo, this is what happens. You get considered a kook, a crazy guy, and all this kind of stuff. But guess what? I get to sleep good. I sleep well at night. I wrote books, but I can't speak English. I sleep well at night. Wikipedia can take me away. Google can hide me. You could do whatever you want, but guess what? The Adam Carollas of the world, the Mike Rose, the Drew Penskys, all of these people, they look at it and go, oh, wait, this guy's got a message. I don't know if you know who Adam Carolla is, but I've been on his podcast over 90 times now. I think I'm the most
recurring number 1 guest.
I got to be up there. I mean, it's a comedic podcast and they have me on. Yeah. Now, maybe they're goofing on me behind my back. I should listen to the show more often, but yeah, it's like a non-comedian who talks about health and fitness, and you've had him on damn near 100 times. What does that say? These are people who are going, we need to get this message out.
Yes.
Right. Mike Rowe watches my movie and goes, we got to, I think Chuck got a hold. We got to, Mike, you got to see this movie. We got to have this guy on. Right.
Yep.
That doesn't happen by chance. I mean, these people see this stuff, yet I'm, shadow banned on Twitter. I'm shadow banned on Instagram. Okay, knock yourself out. I don't care. Knock yourself out. The only thing that upsets me is that more people can't find this and do better.
And that's what you're saying yes to me is another step in my tribe may not listen to those people.
Yeah.
And your message, I think, is incredibly important to be heard. And the more that certain powers that be want to silence it, the more I'm interested in hearing what that message is, because it doesn't make them money, because there's not a pharmaceutical support group for people who are healthy, is there? If you are healthy, you need less pharmaceuticals. If you need less pharmaceuticals, somebody's pockets are getting thinner. And I think that without getting too like on a soapbox, I believe in the power of our ability to be healthy and make healthy choices. And I think doctors have a place. I'm not saying they're bad, they're all bad, but I think what you share is a powerful tool. It puts someone in the driver's seat of their own life, of their own body, of their own health. And we're told as women, you hit midlife, even men, right? Oh, everybody gets fat in midlife. Your hormones are changing. There's nothing you can do about it. And then everybody does the clickbait thing, right?
Right.
Do that. This is reason why. But I have been hearing a lot more about the hormones. And that's why I wanted to ask you about the hormones. And you covered that. It's like, it's the hormones, not necessarily just estrogen. There's so many other things happening that are changing our bodies. So if you had to give my listeners just 3 things that they need to start with, what would those 3 things be so that they can begin to take control of their health, or at least face the reality that they've given up that power and it's time to take it back?
Number 1, and this might be a shocker, sleep. Sleep. If you're having trouble sleeping, if you don't get a proper amount of sleep, figure it out. There's a lot of natural aids out there. You could talk to an MD or a DO or even a naturopath. Getting the proper amount of sleep. If you want to get your hormones in line, get some sleep. Along with that, this is still number 1. I'm not moving to number 2 yet. Take care of yourself. We have stressful lives. Don't be on a phone or an iPad or a computer all day. When I'm done with Gina today, folks, I'm closing this tablet. I won't be on it again until 8:00 tonight when I'm talking to a woman in Australia, right? I don't look at phones all day. I'm getting on a phone call right after this. I won't have the phone in my hand. I will dial the number and it goes into my ears. Don't have strobing lights going all day long. Take care of yourself. By the way, these lights are strobing. You just don't realize it. iPads, all these screens, they're horrible for you. Get rest. And if you could do something like go for a walk, yoga class. I'm not kidding about this, fishing, anything where you could be away from electronics. My thing is I go skeet shooting at least 5 mornings a week. If you go, you're skeet shooting, yes. I go out there. You got to block everything else out. Focus. It's a Zen moment. It's my sport. I compete in it. And it's my moment to get away from everything. And then I can work the rest of the day. So that's number 1. Rest, recreation, rest and relaxation, recreation. That's number 1. Number 2, just as important, eating right. Look at your diet. Get my free PDF while it's still free. Get it.
SNG.
And SNG. But you may want to put in the show notes or what have you, so that your audience can find it, Gina. It's the NSNG PDF. You can find it at vinnietortorich.com. Start eating right? You cannot outrun a bad diet. You cannot. And number 3, speaking of running, get exercise. Walking your dog is exercise. Getting out and walking. If you find yourself, you work in a cubicle or you work at home, you do whatever, get out, move around. Whenever I do my phone calls, I'm getting ready to get on the phone here. As soon as I get the person on my phone, I stick the phone in my back pocket and I walk out of the front door. Sometimes it's pouring rain. Sometimes it's it just got awful hot. Sometimes it's freezing cold. Phone out the front door. I have coats. I have raincoats. I have everything. I even have a special hat. It's called a Tilly hat. It's like this kind of wide brim hat. And I bought it specifically so that when it's raining out, my little ear things don't get.
Yes.
I kept shortening out these. I buy them for about $25 on Amazon, but they get wet enough times and they just go to crap. So I bought a hat, that
your earbuds
with a wide brim on it all the way around. And if it's raining, actually I'll wear it because of the sun and everything else. It's a big old floppy hat. Boom. Problem solved, right? One hat. Now I can walk in the rain. It just.
And you prescribe walking as a primary form. You're not saying go out and do 10 hours of aerobics a week. You're saying get out and walk. What is it? 6 to 8 miles a day is your kind of window that you suggest?
Mike Rowe. That's what he does. I walk probably, I didn't know this until I got this watch. All of a sudden,
A
I told my
tracker?
watch.
Did you get a tracker?
Well, I got a watch. I told my wife, I said, sometimes when I have my glasses on, I said, give me a watch that looks like a clock. Look how big this thing is.
I love big watches. Yeah.
And it's got big white numbers on it. And I get this watch, and it's electronic. It's made by Casio. And there's a thing at the bottom. And I kept going, what are those numbers that keep showing up? They just keep showing every day. And then they start over and they show up. And I read the instructions one day, and it was a tracker. And, this whole campaign started a few years ago, right? Walk 10,000 steps a day. It was just a campaign that was put on by a company, right? This company did this campaign. Well, I started noticing I don't walk 10,000 steps a day. I generally walk 20,000 steps a day, which equates to almost 10 miles.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, 10,000 steps is about 4.5, 5 miles. So, yeah, because I get out and walk every time I get on the phone, and I may still come in, if I'm going to watch television, I might sit on my spinner and just spin, right? Or do something. I don't know if you notice behind me, I have weightlifting equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a whole routine. In between this and something else, it's like, I'm going to do a couple of sets of bench press. Just move around a little bit. You don't want sarcopenia to set it. So that's it. Rest, eat, exercise. 3 things. I didn't mean to take 20 minutes to tell you that, but there you have it.
No, I think it's fantastic. And you're right. You are kind of hard to find. So tell us how we can find you. What are the best ways to find you? Because you are a little hidden. Luckily, I listened to Mike Rowe, and I was diligent to figure it out.
Vinnie Tortorich, Vinnie, last name T as in Tom, ORTOR again, ICH, VinnieTortorich.com. You can find me there. If you put me into the Google machine, then things light up. You'll see the movies, the book, everything else will show up, the podcast. But when you have a name like Vinnie Tortorich, it doesn't just pop up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm there. You can find it, and boom.
And you have Angriest Trainer as your YouTube, correct?
It could still be under that, but it's YouTube is Vinnie Tortorich YouTube channel.
Okay.
And it's kind of fun because I'm building a kayak right now, so you can see the kayak I'm building on that.
That's the kind of thing I would think would be so fun to do. I love learning new things.
Yeah.
Well, Vinnie, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to say yes to what you thought was something different. And I'm glad that I turned out to be not the scary podcast you thought I was. And just for sharing your story and for doing what you do in the world for people like me who are seeking truth and seeking good information and being frustrated with all of the gimmicks and just trying to wade through all the crap to get to good. And I'm grateful that you're the good. You have the goods. You're telling the truth. And I appreciate that so very much.
Thank you for having me on, Gina.
It is my pleasure. Today, friends, I've been speaking with Vinnie Tortorich. He's a director, a producer, a best-selling author, a podcaster, and a celebrity trainer, among other things. If you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 269, you are going to find Vinnie and all of his links very easily. There is a little bit of a challenge to find him online as he is being shadow blocked, I think they call it. But while you're at my website, please put your name and email address in. I send out very periodic emails of encouragement. Friends, this is one of those things that I wanted to share, Vinnie, with you because he has a message that is literally life-changing. It's health-changing. It is a way to change your life for the better and get rid of those aches and pains and that extra weight. I'm on that journey now. You've heard me say before, recovering my body from that cortisol overload at the time of taking care of my mother-in-law. And I know we're all going through so much in this world as well as in our personal lives. And anytime I can find someone who can share a message that is going to help you change your life and your body for the better, I am all in. please go check out vinnietortorich.com. It is not www. If you go onto Amazon Prime, you put his name in, you will see all of his documentaries. Friends, if we are feeling physically unhealthy, there are natural, healthy solutions that we can take and begin to feel better. Please share this podcast and Vinnie's resources with people you know who are ready to take back their lives and their health. I've seen it work. I know it works. And I'm happy that Vinnie actually said yes, came on this show, and that I can share this message with you, because your health matters. The healthier you are, the better your life, the greater your mission and message can get out to the world. You can meet your own needs, your family's needs, whatever needs you need to meet when you are in a healthier state. Let me know how this podcast impacted you. And don't forget to go and get that NSNG doc. Again, go to www.feminineroadmap.com and click the link to Vinnie's document while it's free, my friends. Thank you so much for being here today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Tell as many people as you can. Thank you so much for being with me today. I look forward to sharing more inspirational and wonderful people with you in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.